is the first Friday of the month. We are in June, which means today is Sexy First Friday, and you're going to get to meet with Sam and I as we finish up our Enneagram Basics series today with talking about the instincts and the instinctual stacking. It looks like Sam is here. Hopefully she has no issues joining. Let's see, we always hope. And so I'm just accepting her in, and then we'll get going. All right, accept. There we go. Yay. It's always great when it just works, right?
Happy June, Lyndsey.
Happy June to you as well. I cannot believe we're like halfway into 2026. That's kind of wild.
This is also our 42nd episode, and we have been doing Sexy First Friday for over 3 years now, which is wild. It feels like we just started it.
I know, it does, doesn't it? Like when I look at the episode numbers, I'm like, wow, 42. It's like we just started it like last week. I mean, I know it wasn't 3 years ago, but well, let's get started. We'll talk a little bit about who Sam and I are. If you've watched Sexy First Fridays before, you're well aware of who Sam and I are, but every once in a while we get some new people hopping on, and so we always reintroduce ourselves. I will start, and then I will have Sam introduce herself. My name is Lyndsey Fraser. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a certified sex therapist. And an IA-accredited professional. I have a private practice in South Minneapolis where I specialize in relationships and sexuality. And then Sam and I do lots of workshops and presentations and all other kinds of stuff as well. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Sam?
And don't forget to say your type and instinct.
I always forget that. Yes, I am an Enneagram Type 9, and I am a social dominant who has the sexual instinct in the repressed position, which I think will be really important to understand for today's episode.
Perfect. So I'm Sam E Greenberg. I am a doctor of psychology and a sexuality researcher. And I'm also an Enneagram coach specializing in sexuality, intimacy, and relationships. And my research focuses on the intersection of Enneagram and sexual desire patterns. I am a type 5 sexual instinct dominant. So I want to say why we did our Enneagram Basics series overall, and then why we chose this topic specifically today. So if you've been following us over the past 9 months or so, we've done a series of mini-series on a couple of things. We did a relationships basics series, which was 3 episodes. We did a sexuality basics series, which was 3 episodes, and then an Enneagram basics series. And the reason we did all of those things is because after doing many episodes on the intersection of sexuality and the Enneagram, which is our specialty, we wanted to bring some of our other expertises to bear because we know actually a lot of things. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. So we did these series, and we've done the Enneagram Basics series now with the history of the Enneagram and how to find your type and accurate typing. So why we thought it was important to talk about instinct basics is because a few reasons. One, instincts is one of the topics about the Enneagram that you're going to find the fewest number of kind of lay people even know about. So a lot of people have heard of the Enneagram, have heard of typing, might know their type a little bit. But when you say, have you heard of subtypes or instincts, a lot of people are going to say no. It's just a little bit of a lesser known aspect of the Enneagram outside of the Enneagram community, where it is quite well known, and it is becoming more well known, I will say, in the past 2 years or so. That's one reason. And another reason is because it's so important for relationships and for sexuality. If you've seen our other episodes on this, we talk extensively about that. And this episode isn't going to be about sexuality and relationships very much. It's just going to be about the basics. But we do have many other episodes that I can point you to where we talk about the overlap of instincts with sexuality and with relationships. And we find that instincts, dominant instinct, the instinct that you are the most, has sometimes more bearing on relationships and sexuality even than your type does. So we think it's very important for that reason as well. Anything you would add, Lyndsey, before we dive into what are the instincts?
What is your Enneagram type in instinctual stacking?
Oh, I did. I thought I said the type, but maybe I didn't even say that. I have an Enneagram Type 5, and my dominant instinct is sexual.
And what is your repressed one?
I always forget to. And my repressed one is self-preservation.
Yeah, I was just thinking for today, since we're going to be talking about that, people can know a little bit more about us and sort of what I actually love about this is not only are Sam and I different Enneagram types, but we also have these different Enneagram stackings that also make it really interesting, sort of what we bring to the work, the things that we pay attention to, the things we're a little bit neurotic about, well balanced, things that we maybe neglect a little bit. But interestingly enough, both of the ones that we have in the last position either are balanced or are the dominant for the other. And so just a really great balance that we, again, as a team, we have all this balance that we bring, which I think is just wonderful to like recognize again as well.
Yeah. So, what are the instincts, Lyndsey, for people who are new, or by the way, for people who aren't new and who already, kind of think they know? Sometimes it's going back to basics. You can pick up information that you've missed. So, let's start from square one and tell us what the instincts are.
So really what we're thinking about here is the instincts are three instinctual drives that we have to survive in the world. So if we think about like back when we were in tribes of people, we needed all three of these for the tribe to survive. So though we're not living in tribes today, they are still things that are innate into who we are. And we can just talk a little bit about what those three are. So the first one is self-preservation, which I think is oftentimes the easiest one for people to understand. So if you're thinking about when we were in tribes of people, they were the people making sure we had enough resources. So do we have enough food? Do we have housing? Are our basic needs being met? And so even today, when we're going to look at self-preservation dominance, or people that look at self-preservation, it's all about like, are my basic needs being met to survive sort of within the world? The second one is social, which is my dominant one. And so if neither one of us are self-preservation dominant, sorry, or not sorry, I don't know. But social, if we're looking at when we're like in the times periods of tribes, they were the ones that were making sure that there was cohesion within the tribe. So is everybody getting along? Are we making sure that we have cohesion, bringing in the people that are kind of on the outside, mending any conflicts or issues or concerns that we might have, just to ensure that the tribe can be successful. And so today, social is going to look a lot like, as a social dominant myself, like I'm always paying, like if I'm at a party, for instance, like I'm paying attention to how all those people at that party are feeling. I'm going to notice the person that's in the corner, maybe not speaking up. Maybe I notice that this is also some 9 things as well. But like they're the ones like they'll go over and they'll kind of bring that person in, make sure they're part of the group. They may tend to be menders of conflict or issues or concerns that are there or well aware of those things as well. And so it becomes the bonding and cohesion sort of instinct. And then the sexual instinct, which I'm not always the best at explaining because it is my last one. When we were thinking about tribes of people, it was sort of that, like, no matter what, even in times of hardship, we're going to be reproducing. So these are people that are looking for, today I would say, or just in general what it is like, things that make me feel alive. Am I desirable? Am I attractive? That zing, that zap, those kind of things that we feel that make us feel the most alive and have the most passion and excitement in life. Did I describe those correctly, Sam, or anything you would add?
Yeah, that was perfect. We always say, don't get hung up on the idea that the sexual instinct has to be about sex, because in fact, in our other work, you'll find that they're all about sex and not about sex. We have different approaches to sexuality, but the sexual instinct sometimes called the one-to-one instinct, which is a bit of a misnomer because all three can prefer to connect one-on-one. It is, like Lyndsey said, it's more about that like juice and feeling alive, whereas in the evolutionary function of it was more about reproduction. So just a little bit of nuance there.
And if we talk a little bit about, so you might also hear the term Enneagram subtypes too as well. And so like, what are Enneagram subtypes? And so really what you're looking at here is each type will have its own flavor with the instinct that creates the subtype. So you're going to have, so for instance, each type will have 3 subtypes within it. So if you're looking at Enneagram 1s, for instance, we're going to have the sexual dominant Enneagram 1s, the social dominant Enneagram 1s, and then you're also going to have your self-preservation dominant Enneagram 1s. And what this will do is create a little bit of a different flavor, make each of these types show up just a little bit differently, because they're going to have one thing that they're more hyper-focused on as their way of sort of surviving within the world. So we have 27 of those, if you are curious of like what that looks like. I would say we should also be talking about the repressed instinct role, and how that will create even another flavor. But right now there are 27 subtypes that we think of within the Enneagram world. So that's really a lot of different kinds of people that can show up with different kinds of focus, needs, etc., sort of within the world. And then just imagine in relationships and sexuality when you bring that piece in as well.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is instinctual stacking. So even if you are familiar or just vaguely familiar with the instincts, you may not have heard of instinctual stacking. So instinctual stacking is the order that you have the instincts in the self, in the consciousness. So your dominant instinct is going to be one of those three that Lyndsey just explained what it is. And dominant means it's what you are doing the most, what you're spending the most energy on, the most preoccupation with. You basically need it in order to feel safe. And if it's not there, you're going to feel kind of wrong, or like something's awry. You really like want or need that dominant one, the things that are inherent within that to be in order for you to feel good, for you to feel safe. That's your dominant instinct. And then, as Lyndsey has said several times, there's also a repressed instinct. And a repressed instinct is going to be also one of those three, definitely not the same as your dominant, obviously. That is the one that you spend the least amount of energy on, that you think is sort of, if you consider it at all, you would think it's sort of a waste of time. If you know someone who spends a lot of time doing whatever that instinct is, you would be like, why are they wasting their time doing that? You know? So if, for example, I'm a self-preservation repressed person myself, I might look at someone who's a self-preservation dominant person who spends a huge amount of their energy making sure that their finances are in order, their home is in order, their energy is managed, their stress is managed, they are playing it safe, they're not gonna be like leaping before they look like I might as a sexual dominant. I'm gonna look at that and say, like, what a drag. Like, why, why are they doing that? They're not living life to the fullest, right? So whichever one you are looking at in someone else, where you're like, what are they doing? That's probably your repressed instinct. And so the stacking just means you have the dominant, you have the repressed, and then you have the one in the middle, which is the other of the three that's not your dominant or repressed. So let's use ourselves as an example. So to help be less confusing, I'm a sexual dominant. That means I spend the most energy, I like the most energy to concerns about desirability, passion, aliveness, merging, intensity. And then I'm social second in my stacking. So it's sexual, then social, then self-preservation least. Social, I'm about balanced with. So in terms of how I see myself as a member of groups, is everyone in the group okay? Is this group cohesive? What is it? What do we need? How do we make sure we're doing the right etiquette? How do we respect people's feelings? I spend about the right amount of energy on that. Not too much, not too little. And then finally, I'm self-preservation repressed. So I'm spending not enough and the least amount of energy on self-preservation things with I should be spending more. Basically, I'm remiss in my attention to that. Lyndsey, do you want to do your stacking as well?
Sure. So I am social dominant. So that means I put a lot of my energy in belonging, being part of the group, looking at like how everyone in the group is feeling, sometimes honestly to the detriment of myself, which will make sense with having the sexual instinct sort of in the last position for me. And also being an Enneagram 9, like I get kind of double whammy here because I have both of those sort of happening for me. I have the self-preservation sort of in the middle space, which means I'm really balanced at that. that, you know, oftentimes I'll say like it's important to sort of save money, but it's also important to live and experience life. And so having that balance of sort of both of those things happening. And then for me, I have sexual instinct in the last position. And it was really interesting with this one in particular. I think that's just worth noting is it can be the hardest one to understand if it is the last one you're in your last position. For the longest time, the feedback that I would get is that I wasn't passionate enough or intense enough or excited enough sort of about life in general. And a lot of times I'd be very confused. I've done a lot of work on this. I have a lot of awareness around this now. But just sort of that, like, why would you put all that energy into that intensity? It was interesting because like when you were talking, Sam, I was thinking about like when I was like conversing with some colleagues a couple years back, and we were talking a little bit about just these different instincts and like how depending on what your repressed instinct is, how you judge people of that dominant instinct. And it was really interesting because the social repressed people often judged the socially dominant people as being hypocritical. And the self-preservation repressed people were kind of like judging the self-preservation dominant people as being really boring, just kind of like you said. And then the sexual instinct repressed people were kind of judging the sexual instinct dominant people for being inappropriate. So it was just so if you find yourself even just, and we were all kind of like, aha, yes, that makes so much sense. Like all of us, because interestingly enough in this group, we had one of every repressed instinct. And so we were kind of just having a dialogue among colleagues. And it was just a really interesting way. It's like, it is interesting. I will say I have often thought of like, oh, you're so inappropriate. Like, why would you, like as a sexual instinct repressed person, like, why would they go in so intense? Like, you don't even know that person, you know, like you got to get to know me and kind of slow down. But interestingly enough, like today, like I crave more of that, the more work that I've done on myself and realize like how wonderful it is to kind of have that intensity and to kind of feel more alive and sometimes have dreams and leap. But it's been just a really interesting, and like, I think even like with our own relationship that you and I have, Sam, like when I get a little neurotic about the social dominant stuff, like you can like bring me back down to page 1 because I can get a little bit like, did I make a social foible? Like, does that person not like me? Am I still going to belong? That can be some of the worries that a social dominant can have. And we can like be too focused on social dynamics and social roles. And it's not like people sometimes think about social dominance as like a hierarchy thing. We do have a hierarchy in mind. Like we know what the position of peoples are, but it's like not that we want to be the top. Depending on Enneagram type, you might see some people want that more than others, but it's like, I want to know that I have a position. I always joke, I want to be position number 2 if I can be, please. I do not want to be position number 1 in the hierarchy.
I always love when you say that. I remember that all the time. I want to say a word about the neuroticism of the sexual instinct because like you're saying, Lyndsey, it's a little bit more amorphous. It's a little hard to understand it. I think you just spoke to the neuroticism of the social instinct, and it's quite easy to extrapolate the neuroticism of the self-preservation instinct. So, you know, like we're not having any fun, we're not going on any vacations because we have to save all our money, we're not making any messes because the house has to stay clean. Like that would be the neuroticism of the self-preservation instinct. Like we can't spend our energy because then we won't have any left. But the neuroticism of the sexual instinct is a little harder to understand. So that's going to be more around when the relational intensity, passion, and merging is off a little bit or goes away, even for a day. The sexual instinct is like, no, where is it? This person doesn't even care about me anymore. They haven't like expressed their passionate feelings towards me. And this can be friendship, it doesn't have to be romantic. And it's sort of neuroticism about like, if I'm not feeling that juice, life is not worth living. Like, why am I even bothering with this person or this activity? So there's just not a tolerance for the kind of natural ups and downs and enthusiasm and connection that happen in relationships and careers and activities throughout the lifespan. So that's where we see the neuroticism of the sexual instinct come in. What about we talk about a little bit about how these impact our everyday lives. So we talk a lot about how they impact our relationships, and our other episodes will point people to those. But what would be affected by these in just kind of the everyday life, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. So I was like, well, if you're social dominant, you're always focused on relationships anyway, even if it's an everyday life, because for social dominance, like relationship is kind of how you survive too within the group and stuff like that. So it's like interesting when you brought that up. I was like, so even if you're like trying to do everyday life and you're still thinking about relationships, you could be a social dominant. I think it's like where you spend money, or even how you spend money, right, is some of the things that you're going to kind of see. I'm married to a self-preservation dominant, and there can be, luckily he doesn't listen to these because he's a 5 and he likes privacy. But it's, he can be like, if our accounts are not at the places that he wants them to be, he can be a little bit like anxious about it, right? Even though to me, it's like there's plenty of money flows, it comes and goes. Spending money is also important to live life. And so there can be, it's like where and how you spend your money, I think can be huge on that. Like what you might see on the opposite end of that is like if you have, self-preservation in the repressed position, like you're not even paying attention to your finances. You can be like, oh no, like I wasn't even looking at that. And like now my bank account's lower than I have got some bills coming through. And it has nothing to do with even like how much money that person makes or doesn't make. They're just like really just not paying attention to sort of, the money in those kinds of things as well. So definitely how and where you spend money too, right? And what it looks like for you, or if you're even willing to spend the money, right? I think one of my things, which is just kind of funny, is like joining all kinds of organizations and groups. Like I don't need to belong to every organization and group. I need to figure out the ones that are a good fit for me and get rid of the rest. And that's actually something that's been really interesting and discerning for me, is like which ones fit authentically who I am versus just wanting to be a part of a group.
That is a great point. I remember I saw a meme or something one time that said, "Does anybody like get through their life without a budget, and they just check their bank account sometimes and have vibes?" And I was like, that is so self-preservation and repressed in terms of a relationship to money and finances. It's also going to impact literally how you structure your day. So we're going to see our self-preservation dominance, especially those who then also have the sexual instinct in the last position. We're going to see them have a lot more routines and structures that are consistent, that are maybe even the same every day. I wake up, I do this, I have my coffee, I go to the gym, I do these hours, and then here's my routines. That's much more of a self-preservation dominant approach to your day. We're going to see like our sexual dominance, especially those with self-preservation in the last position, we're going to see them with a lot more variety in the way they kind of live day to day, because they will get extremely bored with that kind of consistency of routine. And they'll want to vary it. So you'll see a lot more of like, oh, today I'm doing these things, and a different day I'm waking up at a totally different time. I'm eating totally different things, and there's gonna be a lot more variety. Can you speak to how social dominance might structure their days?
I think it can be around, like, I think when I'm not in the best place, like overscheduling myself. So like whether it's, because as a 9 myself, I need a lot of alone time to re-energize. But then if I'm asked to have connection with other people, I might, even to the detriment of myself, schedule that connection with that person, because I haven't seen them in a while, and there might be a fear if I don't, say yes to that meeting with them, that like I won't be as connected to that person in the ways that I want to or need to be. This has changed over time. Like I've been a lot better at being able to like say no, but that might be one of the things that I think you would see for more social dominance, like prioritizing connection and belonging to groups and other people to kind of make sure that they're going to be sort of like, almost like safe within the world, right? Or survive within the world sort of with that. I've burned myself out with that, so it's been interesting. And in the last like 6 years, I've been really balanced in saying no to people, paying attention to who gives me energy or not, and like have had to like lessen some friendships and things like that because I don't feel good when I'm around those people. But before I'd be like, but if I do, then I might not have people in my life to be connected to. So there's can be a little bit of like that kind of happens.
That makes so much sense. So we talked about money, daily routines, also just how your home is, how you set up your home and like the structures within it. Again, you're going to see as a general stereotype, there's plenty of self-preservation dominant people who are really messy and stuff. It's not that like every self-preservation dominant person's neat or something like that, but they're going to want their home a certain way, like whatever suits them and supports them, makes them feel safe and comfortable. So you generally will often find that they'll have a more ordered, home. But again, I've met plenty of them who are also very messy. It just depends. And with sexual dominance, you're going to see like a more passionate home where there's a lot more expressiveness. There's going to be probably a lot more messes and more like kind of taking on more fun and juicy things, especially if there's kids involved. Like the people I know who are sexual dominant and have kids is like, sure, let's finger paint, like, sure, let's bake the cookies, and not as much attention to now everything's gonna be messy for days because we made it this big mess, and then it takes a long time with kids to get stuff back in order. Again, I am like a little bit less good at explaining social dominance if you want to take over.
It was just funny because I was just like, I'm like, yeah, that's my social dominance. One of my goals that I've always wanted in my home is a home that people will feel comfortable coming to and being in. So making it cozy and comfortable, choosing colors, having lots of soft blankets, having space, like actually getting frustrated with my family members when they keep it too messy because it wouldn't be comfortable for someone else to come into. But my whole motivation is like, I want a home that people can just come to and feel at home in. So like, I want to give you the tea. I want to which is fine. I'm not a two, but it sounds very two-ish. Like I want this cozy home environment. And that was like, it's like been one of my like, couple of years ago, it was like one of my goals, like how can I make a cozy home environment that people want to be in? And so I think very much you're going to see social dominance. I'm just thinking my other social, like my social dominant 8 friend, like a lot of these people like really want these spaces that people can come and be in and gather.
That is so insightful. I'm gonna remember that one. That making the home suitable for like hosting. Since we're actually getting close to the end, I wonder if we can talk about some good resources people can check out for introductory material on the Enneagram instincts, and then we'll talk about some things that we have coming up. I can say a little bit about the resources. So you're going to find fewer resources on this than you are on the types. There's so many Enneagram books now. There's so much Enneagram stuff on the internet, but you are going to find a less on the subtypes and the instincts, although it's getting more now. Beatrice Chestnut's book, The Complete Enneagram 27 Paths to Greater Self-Knowledge, is a good place to start. And then you'll see a few of the Enneagram books will have a little bit of stuff written on the instincts. Even the Wisdom of the Enneagram by Rizzo and Hudson does have some stuff, but it's not a lot. Um, the IEQ 9 people I know, they have a good course on subtypes that has really good content if someone wanted to like really dive in on the 27. And then another book that we recommend is The Instinctual Drives and the Enneagram by John Lukovich. That's probably actually the best book that's just about the instincts, or mostly just about the instincts, that's published, with the small caveat that we don't necessarily endorse the behaviors and opinions of the author generally, but the book is good. And you can also find a bunch more about the relationship of instinct and subtype with sexuality in our work. So on YouTube at Sexy First Fridays, you'll find our episode. I listed them out because there's so many. Episode 2, episode 4, episode 10, and episode 30 are all on instincts. Episode 2 is on the role of instinctual bias in sex, and then 4 is instincts in the wild. That's a little bit about our personal journeys with our instincts. Episode 10 is on blind or repressed instincts in sex, and then episode 30 was on busting myths about instincts as relates to sex and relationships. Those are all on our YouTube at Sexy First Fridays. If maybe people are not already watching this on YouTube, you can check it out on YouTube. And Lyndsey, do you want to talk about what we have coming up?
Sure, I definitely can do that. And I see that the person that commented on here is asking about that. Yes, every single episode from 1 to 42 is recorded, and we actually do put them on the YouTube channel, so they're easier to find, so you don't have to look on Instagram, because there'll be a lot of like searching there. And like Sam said, it's just Sexy First Fridays. It's also linked in our bios if you want to just go into the bio, and you can get access to the YouTube page as well. Oh, it'll be an X. So it's Sexy, SEXY Friday, Sexy Fridays at Sexy Fridays. Sexy First Fridays. Yep.
Well, I was about to say, did I get it wrong?
I'll make sure that I comment it at the bottom of the after this is posted onto Instagram. I will comment just exactly how to get there too as well. We just changed the handle, which I'm so glad, because you can never remember what the handle was. It used to just be my name, and I was like, all right. Even yesterday, I'm like, we gotta just change this to Sexy First Fridays. It'll be easier for people to find. So I will make sure that gets put in the comments after we are done for today as well. So what we got coming up? So we have Sam is on the Enneagram Personal Growth Summit with, I don't know how to say Melissa's last name. How do you say Melissa's last name?
Kircher.
Kircher, okay. And they're doing on repressed instincts. That will happen next week on June 9th through the 12th. There's a link in bio for that. That's free. That's free, yep. And that's through Typish, which is run by Tyler Zach. And then also, we just got a new streamlined Enneagram and Sexuality for Transformed Relationships that does have 4 CEUs with it. If you are a marriage and family therapist, that being said, most boards will still give you approval if I give you the CEU for that. And that does include one of your ethical CEUs that you need, as well as if you're a therapist. Now, the nice thing about this one in particular is you do not have to be a therapist to get a lot out of it. We have a personal track, and we also have a therapist track sort of within that training as well. And then we have our Repressed Instincts and Sexuality training coming this fall. Right now there is a pre-sale on that, and you can also get that pre-sale in our link, and we are super excited to be bringing that workshop as well. Anything else I missed, Sam?
That's the main things. We actually have a bunch of other things, but we decide not to list them all every time to overwhelm people. So I'll just say that the new streamlined Enneagram and Sexuality for Transformed Relationships is our course that's about 4.5 hours of material, and it's good. It has some good intro stuff, but it also goes in depth. So like that's the main kind of flagship course we offer that we recommend for people, whether you need CEUs or not. And what Lyndsey and I have a shared blind spot around promoting ourselves. We made this really high quality course, and we always forget to tell people about it. So I just guess extra endorsement for that. And we're excited about the Repressed Instincts one coming this fall. And we're all done. So we will see everybody back for July.
And July will be the second Friday because of the 4th of July holiday. And so just knowing that it won't be July 3rd, I don't know what the date is exactly, but it will be the following Friday as well. And we look forward to seeing you in July. I cannot believe we are in summer already. We didn't even get to talk about our Budapest extravaganza, but we can talk about that next time, maybe a little bit. Sam and I were presenting in Budapest as well. Again, see, we are not good at self-promotion. So we can talk more about, we should touch more on that next time when we meet. But thank you everybody for coming. And like I said, I will make sure I put that link for the YouTube channel at the end in the comment section for this. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to Sam and I in DMs. We are always happy to respond to you there as well. Have a wonderful day. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.